These guys, mute yourselves as you join in, please. Oh, is it Franco? Franco, is it you? With the tab. And I want to make you co-host.
Hi, Chair. Can you please rename? Probably take away the 21202.
Yeah, just a minute.
Yeah, thank you so much. Teams, I think it would be very appropriate because it will be streamed and all that. You use like your names are fine, but kindly include your team names so that when it's showing on the YouTube, like your name is popping up, the team name also pops up. Like it's better that way. So teams, please do us the honor. So Carolina, go with like Carolina UCCA. Who else is here? Okay, I think you're the only. Okay, no, the other speakers here. Let me see. Okay, yeah, some. You could also go great. NOUNA, Ayodele, UCCA, Carolina. Who else is here? Yeah, they're the only two speakers here now, right?
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, Joy.
Okay, great. Just give me a second to my screen.
Okay. Ajake, you could also rename yourself. OAUA Israel Ajake. Dennis, you could also do as Ernest Unesi hyphen Dennis. All speakers, please do this for us so that it's great.
Okay, so yikes. Okay, so hi everyone. Just so I don't waste too much time, the time currently is 16:17. You have 15 minutes to prep for your motion. The motion for the grand finals. This house believes the pursuit of truth, even if it leads to uncomfortable realities, is morally preferably to maintaining social harmony. I go over again. This house believes that the pursuit of truth, even if it leads to uncomfortable realities, is morally preferable to maintaining social harmony. The time currently is 4:18. You have 15 minutes to prep. Good luck, everyone.
Oh. Oh. Chat. Check the chat and let's see if it's there. It's not there. It should not be. And you're on mute.
Okay. Team, sorry for disturbing. Please do all to change your team, like your names, your display name. Cindy, Carolina, you guys have still not changed. Please have UCCA Cindy, UCCA Carolina showing just like Dennis, Israel, and all the others have done.
Okay, let me see the video. I look okay.
Guys, debate is starting at
Guys, just so you know, the motion has been announced. It has also been dropped on WhatsApp group chat. So I assume that you have started prepping because your time ends by 33.
Okay, great. Collins, please rename yourself. Nouna Collins.
Franco, have you started streaming?
No, we haven't started, so you can turn off your video. You only turn it on when you're speaking or you're asking a
Oh.
PY.
It's been longer. How I can turn it off. Oh, let me just leave.
But to be clear, prep has already started, so.
Hi everyone. So prep time is over. Can I check that Tanvir, the chair is here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so let me just do a quick roll call of the judges. Okay. Ado Desmond, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Ekeng Solomon, are you here? Ekeng Solomon, are you here? Okay, Solomon is not here. Jeff Melita, are you here? Jeff Melita. Ekeng Solomon, can you hear me? Are you here? Ekeng Solomon, are you here? If you're speaking, I can't hear you. Okay, I guess I'm just going to come back to you all. Jeff Melita, are you here? Jeff Melita is not here. Naman Ganguly, are you here?
Yes, here. Thank you.
Thank you. Esther, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Wandia Mutiri, are you here?
Present.
Thank you. So we're just waiting on Jeff Melita and Ekeng Solomon. Ekeng, can you hear me? Could you unmute so we can be sure that your network is stable? Solomon, could you unmute?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Jeff Melita, are you here? Okay, let me just try to check for Jeff Melita quickly. Jeff Melita, are you here? Can you unmute and let me know that you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. All right, Andrea, please go ahead. Good luck.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the floor to conduct the debate. Hello everyone. This is the final round of WAUDC, West African University Debating Championship. And welcome everyone to the final rounds. First, congratulations to all the finalist teams for making it this far. Hoping to see a very great debate in this round. So without any further delay, I will just read aloud the motion once, and then we will start, or I will pass the floor to Honorable Prime Minister. The motion says, this House believes that the pursuit of truth, even if it leads to uncomfortable realities, is morally preferable to maintaining social harmony. So without any further delay, passing the floor to Honorable Prime Minister. Here.
Great. Am I visible and audible?
You are audible but not visible yet.
Okay. How about now?
Yeah, you are visible now.
Fantastic. I'd like to remind everyone PIR preference exactly is in the chat. So give me one moment to go to the chat. Speech education. Thanks, Collins, for doing this with me. Even though my debate idol is going to probably see this one day. They hate how do you say speech education, but thanks for doing this tournament with me, as well as combining it with a very difficult tournament last weekend. So yeah, PRs in chat. I am looking at the chat, so please, I'm begging you not to unmute yourself because that will make me uncomfortable during the speech. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We are willing to concede that there are instances where the pursuance of truth leads to violence. But don't be mistaken. We think, and we're going to prove from opening government, that sometimes the pursuance of truth in the long term leads to reconciliation and positive outcomes. But secondarily, note that this motion doesn't only function as through value evaluation, but also as an evaluation of the narrative in terms of how it contributes to morality fundamentally. What then is the truth? I think that this should be obvious in the debate. One, note that it is the objective nature of reality and the power structures that exist that fundamentally influence individuals. But secondly, that certain groups are oppressed and that their oppression and the means to change their oppression disrupts social harmony. But thirdly, also that certain things in your life are terrible, and you need to admit that and pursue, the truth towards achieving, towards realizing that those outcomes within your life are terrible, as opposed to internalizing that those things are good. Who engages with the pursuance of truth, who engages broadly with this debate on either side of the house? We think it is likely to be individuals as well as communities. What does maintaining social harmony then look like within the debate? Firstly, when it concerns the individual, it deals with their ability that they don't want to change the status quo. Secondarily, they don't want to offend others, even if it hurts them. Secondly, also under this, know that people are gaslit, and this is how communities interact with individuals on the basis of the preferability of social harmony as opposed to the pursuance of truth. So this functions as a narrative within society where individuals are gaslighted to believe, that the harms that they experience are useful for social progress as well. But secondarily, also that these harms are desirable to them, which is that the harms that they experience are things that they should fundamentally, aspire to and consider as benefit in their life. And this is fundamentally powerful because the power asymmetry that exists between the individuals discuss this narrative as well as the people who internalize this sort of thing. But secondarily, it functions in the way that you tell people that they cannot change the realities of their life. So note that this motion seeks to evaluate whether or not the pursuance of truth is morally preferable, but we can only access that in society. This motion doesn't exist in abstract, which means we have to interrogate what the pursuance of truth looks like and what the description of keeping the social harmony looks like, and evaluate moral preferability on this basis, not on an abstract metric, given that this motion exists in status quo and morality in itself is an abstract. Why then is this bad? Know that people become morally complicit on the individual level because they don't speak about the harms that they experience. And note that this is important because you're not the only individual who is likely to experience that harm anyway. So which means that other individuals are potentially going to experience the harm from others that you refuse to speak out against simply because you don't want to offend them. But secondarily, this misinforms people because it tells people that the truth is inaccessible in order for the narrative about the social harmony to be fundamentally powerful anyways. Why then does the pursuance of truth leads to good outcomes, and why is this something that is morally preferable given that utility is part of what we consider to be a moral framework? Know that the truth on their side or the preservance of the social harmony on their side is unsustainable because the description of what looks like what happens on their side is you tell people that they are poor because they don't work hard, and that's what contributes to the social harmony. More people working hard, which is if they're able to create better economic outcomes, as opposed to the pursuance of truth on our side, where we discuss the lottery of bet, for example, even though we know that this potentially might offend other groups and this might disrupt the social on their side to destabilize society in the long term, because individuals are still able to think that I've worked hard for so long enough and not able to, I'm not able to get the benefit of hard work at the end of the day. So this disrupts social harmony in the long term if people don't understand why they're not able to get, the best outcomes of their life. So this beats their metric. Even if social harmony was a thing that was morally preferable, practically it's not something that they're able to get by the sort of narrative that exists fundamentally on their side. I think the next thing to look at in terms of argumentation, I'm going to talk about two things. One, why people are fundamentally more happy, and secondarily, why their side is oppressive. And all of these are important, in terms of morality. How should we weigh the first argument about happiness? One, know that social benefits that they are likely to talk about are things that might happen anyway. Like social evolution is something that they have to prove is only going to happen by when you prioritize, the social harmony itself. But even if that were the case, know that people internalize this thing subjectively. So maybe creating the vaccine is not something that is objectively good for everybody. Internalization is subjective. Secondarily, the interactions that you have with individuals in your life is more to a significant extent than the social benefits that are created, like social benefits in terms of COVID, or whether or not you do get how do you say the state provides you with good policy, etc. The interactions that I have with the next person is much more greater in my life, and this is why happiness is important. The burden on UP in order to defeat this argument is that they have to explain why everybody in society is able to access the benefit of social harmony in order for them to be able to defeat this particular argument. Then, why then do people lose out on happiness? Know that the understanding of people in terms of how they interact with others is that they don't know if the interaction that they have with the next person is real when they don't pursue the truth. And this is likely to be bad for them because there's no meaningful feedback that you're able to give to that next person if they hurt you. Secondarily, also, you don't understand if they love you, even if they do show you love, which means that you don't understand if your interactions with this person is real, if they truly are loyal to you, or if they truly love you, because you're stuck in, not wanting to offend them and not wanting to ask questions or not wanting to critique that relationship. Anyways, the impact of this follows. One is that people feel a mental anguish from the sort of interactions that exist in. Secondarily, they are anxious. Thirdly, that the relationship that exists in remains stagnant. And I think also that people don't feel validated in the sort of choices that they make. Also, they do internalize a greater extent of blame and guilt. So when someone hurts you, you're likely to think that this is your fault, but then you're likely to challenge the person because you think that this will disrupt social harmony. So you do internalize the blame to yourself. Why is this then important in debate? Know that social harmony is an end. It describes individuals as means, not ends in themselves, and this violates any moral principle that we rationally can interact with. But secondarily, even if you don't believe Kant and you're deontological in itself, you think utility is more important, we think that individuals get the best form of utility on our side when they are happy and understand that people love them, or when they're able to access the feedback that means that they're able to improve in the next relationship or the next interactions with the next person that they enter. This maximizes the greatest extent of utility. But if you consider morality to be more important, we think that their side treats humans as just means, not ends in themselves. Why then do we think that the preservation of social harmony harms individuals within society and creates more oppression? Note that the individuals who define what social harmony and social progress looks like are individuals who exist within the power structures in society. So these are likely to be government. These are likely to be individuals who hold the greatest amount of capital and are able to control the factors of production in itself. The second thing to note here is that maybe it is the case that individuals don't disrupt the social harmony. The problem that happens here is that there's still resentment, which means that the fact that, I cannot, the social harmony is important doesn't mean that you don't internalize that you're being harmed, which is that you are being oppressed, which is slavery existed. Maybe it was useful towards creating good economic outcomes at that particular point in time and building, a social empire that maybe people might still consider to be utile. The problem here is that people still feel resentment. The outcome is that people are not able to create social progress in a way that gives them agency, so they are not able to hold structures accountable. We think that maximizing agency is morally important, and you don't get that on their side for all of these reasons. Opening government.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, for the fine speech. Passing the floor to Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Here. Leader of the Opposition. You are muted. Unmute yourself.
All right, am I audible?
Yes, you are loud and clear.
All right. All right. How do I time myself? Okay. All right. I'll begin in 3, 2, 1. So panel, for this debate to be possible, we need to understand or take both worlds at their best. So argument like, oh, we cannot necessarily achieve, not everyone has access to social harmony or to the benefits that comes from social harmony in itself, is something that can't be the focus of the debate. Because for the debate to happen, we must take the world at their best and show why at best why we prefer one world above another. We can't have a debate of saying, oh, one world doesn't work, it's our world that works within this particular regard. We can also say the same thing, that, oh, based on the human nature, humans lie. So not everyone can tell the truth, even if you want to pursue the truth, right? We can't have the debate in that lines, right? But then it will also be integrated in my speech to show why OG loses the debate. The first thing we say here is that what is the reason for morals in society, and why do we pursue morals? The reason we pursue morals in society ultimately is because we want to achieve some certain level of social harmony, and that's why we pursue morals within this particular regard. For example, the reason you say you shouldn't steal something is because you are making other people uncomfortable, right? The reason you shouldn't kill someone is because it's against that social order, right? It's still the same thing. The reason you shouldn't tell lies is because it bruises people's egos within this particular regard. And when their egos is bruised, they become angry and then have an incentive to disrupt order, right? Notice the end goal of morality is not necessarily morality in itself. The end goal of morality is social order. At the point to which we achieve that, we think we prefer a world where we can maintain social order as opposed to maintaining the instrument therein, right? Because we think morality is an instrument of social order, right? We think also, I think the argument in this regard is that, oh, when we call out government, when we call out government, it is the truth, right? We can prioritize that, right? Even if government can fight and disrupt social harmony because of calling them out, right? Our analysis is going to show how power symmetry in this regard is even more preferable in our world, to the extent to which we maintain some sort of principle, upholdment that we can achieve in our world, right? The second thing we say is the nature of truth, right? Notice very importantly that truth is a narrative. A narrative are backed by power and also by majority. This clarity is very important because the extent to which people aspire for truth is the extent to which, one, they have majority buy-in, or they have the power to more likely push certain narrative as true within those particular societies. Why is it bad in their world? In a world where you don't maintain social harmony, two things happen. It's either resources, for example, as an incentive to have people divided, or necessarily certain things or certain conflicts within societies have the ability to have society divided. So it means in their world, society is not in harmony. What that looks like is that we have ethnic tensions within this particular regard, or tribal tensions, that's more likely paint an ascriptive, manifestation of one tribe being superior than other tribe, right? Or secondly, we have the existence of certain people feeling the extent to oppress other people. Because the extent of social disharmony is the extent to which people within this particular regard are not cooperative with themselves, they're not tolerant with themselves, and secondly, the extent to which they hate themselves and they don't want to see eye to eye, right, within this particular regard. Why is that word bad? That word is bad because they are at loggerheads at everything, how to divide resources, how to amass power. Notice very importantly that the party that amass power within this particular regard amass power for the benefits of their tribe or for the benefits of their group, and not necessarily the benefits of the majoritarian collective. Why it is bad when you pursue truth, especially when I've clarified that truth is a narrative and it is backed up by power and also by majority. It says very importantly that in those kind of societies where there are no social harmony, what happens is that the powerful group are in charge of what becomes true or what becomes the reigning and predominant narrative within this particular regard. So even if it is true because it has majoritarian buy-in, right? Or it is true because it's backed up by power within particular society. Two things why their world is morally reprehensible. First, I think it oppresses certain groups who don't have that access to power, because notice, because of the disability for them to cooperate among themselves, and secondly, because of the fact that they are always not cooperative and tolerant for each other, it means that when one group amass power, they wouldn't likely use it for the benefits of the collective. But then secondly, the pursuance of truth and the pursuance of narrative is one that becomes exclusionary because it means that the truth that they pursue would benefit their group and their majority within this particular regard. Two reasons why it's principally reprehensible. One, it excludes, right? Two, it limits agency, and this clashed their idea of agency. Because the reason we have the Hutu to today not having access to certain narrative is because the Hutu, right, in Rwanda have access to basic education and basic healthcare system and basic, amenities within society. It means that the Hutus in those particular societies will not have the ability for agency because they don't have the ability to control the media or the ability to control pop culture or the ability to control certain narrative within particular regard. So even in the best case scenario of their world where they pursue the truth, it's exclusionary. Two, it limits the agency of people to strive, right, within those particular instances, most especially when they cannot ascribe to the existence of the moral essence of those particular societies. But then secondly, because of the loggerheads they are in and because of the ethnic tensions, they would always remain at the bottom of the food chain of the benefit of those particular societies. Because two, I also don't have the ability to influence narrative or the ability to even influence the extent to which what becomes true or what doesn't become true within the particular regard. Thirdly, because the power that exists is a power that does not cater for the collective, but a power that also pushes majoritarian narrative within this particular regard that excludes and also limits people's agency. Shoot your POI. Shoot. The next thing we say here is that even if it's the extent to which we have a big government approach within this particular regard, we think that certain informations are more likely excluded from the consumption of society for two reasons. One, because of the reaction of people. So for example, there is a reason governments within society have classified informations because they know that when those informations leak out, it causes anxiety in people panic, and people do actions they otherwise wouldn't have done. These are actions that might inhibit the harmony of such societies because society needs those harmony to more likely strive and be productive within this particular regard. If we have proven anything in our world, we have proven that the preference and the pursuance of truth is exclusive and human tendency. You're proud to oppose.
Thank you, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, for the fine speech. Now passing the floor to Honorable Deputy Prime Minister. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
So I'm trying so hard to ensure that my camera is perfect, but it seems the lighting in this room is quite terrible. But regardless, yeah, the lighting is horrible. Okay, it's just let it be the way it is. All right, so I would appreciate it if the timer that was initially put for my partner would be displayed on the screen. But regardless, I'll try to time myself as well. Okay. All right.
I'm trying to put the timer on the display. Just
Sure.
wait a minute.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Is it visible, the timer?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, you can start whenever
Okay.
you're ready.
So I begin my speech in, sorry. I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Social harmony in and of itself is often problematic morally. It's often coercive because people have to cede their autonomy, cede their rights, cede their personhood to maintain social autonomy. If there is this level of immoral issue with social harmony in and of itself, we think that social harmony that is based off of falsehood is even more morally reprehensible, and we reject that. I do not like debates where like the opposition teams do not want to be comparative, because if you read the motion, you understand what is expected of us. We have to defend a world where you pursue truths even if you face uncomfortable realities. Uncomfortable realities like probably being a Catholic for years and realizing that the Catholic Church has been molesting boys for a long period of time. Uncomfortable realities like maybe, oh, the fact that after you discover truth, you realize that maybe your parents do not love you as much and you probably need to leave, even though staying back will probably like give you a lot of benefits that comes from that social harmony. It means that we have to defend truth even in those kind of instances. What UP has to defend is a world where even when truth is quelled and where you do not pursue what truth is, you have like some sort of moral benefits, because it's a moral debate. I also don't think like you can buy the argument from Elo that truth is like some narrative. My partner already characterizes what truth is to you. It's an objective metric. It is objective perception of what reality really is. On their side, they hide it. On our side, we find it, irrespective of the fact that we might get uncomfortable realities along the way. A couple of things to understand. Social harmony, because they say engage debate in the best case scenario. The problem with social harmony in and of itself, I mean, we're not saying this is morally problematic, is the fact that it often does three things. One, often limits people's agency, like my partner tells you, which is morally problematic, because the fact that you didn't consent to exist and the fact that you probably concede a lot of your rights to live in these social situations means that you need to at least maximize your agency to some degree. That is quelled on social and decide that prioritizes social harmony. But secondly, pluralism isn't necessarily encouraged, which means like things like multiple perspectives aren't encouraged, which means that most of the people are just people like thinking in one direction, like a herd of animals, not necessarily having the ability to question several things. We don't get multiple perspectives that allows us to even like further progress as a society, etc. Why is social harmony that is based off of falsehood itself even more morally reprehensible? Before I get there, a couple of responses. They say that we pursue morals because of social harmony. We think that's nonsense. The reason why most of the social laws and all these particular moral laws exist is to, as much as possible, ensure that you preserve life, ensure that you allow people to actually live the best lives that they could probably live. All the laws about don't kill, all the laws that exist is to ensure that people are protected. It's not just, oh, because we want to have like social harmony and everybody just live in a society. It's not just that. It's because of the fact that there is a recognition that human life and human experience and a dignified life, something that is possible for every single person. That's why we institute laws. But secondly, they tell you, oh, social conflicts exist, ethnic conflicts, and they use this Hutu Rwanda genocide example. A couple of things here. The first thing to understand is that there was a pursuit of truth even before the conflict. There was a recognition, if there was a recognition that, oh, the Belgians favored these guys over these people, that's why they were able to get that kind of power. If there was this interrogation existent, we probably wouldn't have had that. But secondly, post-conflict, the fact that there were reconciliation committees, reconciliation councils, they were seeking to investigate this kind of truth that helped people to be able to heal from those particular kind of wounds, that brought some of these issues that nobody knew about before to the forefront, was even much better to allow that society heal and to move forward from those conflicts. Because at the end of the day, no side can say, oh, conflicts will not happen in our world. That's crazy. Comparatively, on our side, when we pursue truth and we're able to allow more reconciliation, we're able to why is social harmony, I'll take in a bit, why is social harmony built off of falsehood problematic? Firstly, and this is what my partner tells you, but I have to extend on it, is the idea of mutual trust. It's a moral debate. The fact is, social harmony is based off morally on mutual trust. The fact that I can look at you and trust that to some degree you are telling me the truth. The fact that I can look at you and trust that you're not lying to me is something that is critical. Why is this extension for my speech very important? Firstly, because institutions, which is the bulwark of social harmony, is based and legitimized off of truth. The fact that people can trust institutions, the fact that all the criminal justice system, for instance, all the departments that exist in states are based off of the fact that people can trust you, that the fact that you're not lying to them, which means that in several instances, when people concede their rights because of social contract, people pay taxes to you as a government, when people are able to like subscribe to whatever those institutions are, and they do not find it trustworthy enough, they have a right to be inquisitive, because it is morally reprehensible that that particular trust is dampened and it weakens trust in those institutions. This looks like the US, for instance, using tax money like from this from their citizens to fund like wars in Vietnam, to fund all these particular kind of wars and lying to the populace. When people discovered those particular kind of things, there was even less trust. There was even mistrust in those particular institutions, which has a lot of people like not probably trusting those institutions today. It means social harmony itself is harmed on the side of the house when people do not have trust of the institutions and do not necessarily like know what truth particularly means. The second moral problem is that in many instances you treat people as a means to an end, which means to maintain social harmony, you have to do things like the Soviet Union does, like Russia does, which means like propaganda, for instance. That's the word they kind of have to defend. Like they have to defend that there may be some good there. We think it is morally problematic because people aren't necessarily allowed the full agency. But secondly, Because of the fact that these particular people are used as tools in that particular regard, used as propaganda machines. Their minds are weaponized to be able to purport lies because they themselves are used to purport lies or purport falsehood in that particular place. I think that's particularly problematic. I'll take a POI from closing the position.
So the debate exists on a tangent where truth is uncomfortable. Your case tackles truth on the best case scenario. Engage the debates properly.
Exactly. So the thing is this, the reason why when truth is uncomfortable, it's actually preferable on our side. I'll get to the comparative. It's simply this, because firstly, we are able to ensure that we enhance people's appreciation of those institutions and appreciations of those societies when we're able to pursue truth. How is this likely? Because you can make things like reconciliations, you can make things like correction. You do not want to repeat the same mistakes again. It means if it is uncomfortable for me to engage with the fact that the Catholic Church was known for probably raping boys or molesting boys, what happens is the Catholic Church can apologize. They can make reparations. Like people do not necessarily have to keep mistrusting you all the time. As much as possible, people can necessarily like make those kind of corrections and move forward. We do not make the same mistakes again. There's an incentive on our side to ensure that some of those mistakes and some of those moral harms are not necessarily repeated. But secondly, it is the foundation of justice. Look at the Me Too movement, for instance. How many people in Hollywood that we revered, but when we pursued the truth and we knew that these particular people had to be out there, some people literally lost their jobs because of the fact that they were speaking up. In this particular instance, because it's the foundation of justice, it's principally and morally more preferable to ensure that even if it is minorities that benefit and like the majority is in this particular instance not necessarily too comfortable, we're able to ensure that justice exists and all the harms that people actually suffered are able to be corrected. Two more things. One is the fact that a social harmony society or society based on social harmony based on falsehood are not sustainable. Look at the Soviet Union, for instance, that was based off of like propaganda and people being lied to. It means every single form of external shock or any single form of attack will probably reduce or diminish the impact of that social harmony itself. But thirdly, things like progress are quelled. When people continuously lied about climate change, etc., all the agents that were maintaining all these lies didn't even benefit. We think primarily on our side. We're able to ensure comparatively that people pursue these truths. Despite the fact that they may be uncomfortable, we can at least allow people to reconcile and make more progress. We can at least allow justice. Comparatively on our side, we enhance agency and we ensure that the reason why people trust institutions remain very, very proud to propose.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, for the fine speech. Passing the floor to Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Here. Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
All right, just give me some seconds, please.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so still hoping I'm audible. Yeah, I'll take, all right, cool, there's a timer. I'm going to take a POI from my 5th minute, yeah, and preferably from closing government, right? Yeah, sure. All right. Some seconds, please. All right, so first off, I would like to dedicate this speech to my partner Ajake for carrying a dino like me, and also I want to dedicate it to all my friends and my kids in Fudu and in OAU. So I'm really grateful, and yeah, sure, I think this I'm literally coming to an end to things like BP and debating. All right, so thank you, Ajake. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, guys. I'm going to begin this speech in 3, 2, and 1. When we look at the concept of the Rwandan genocide, I think the bottleneck there in itself defeats the entire case you heard from opening government, particularly one that comes from Collins in his speech, right? When Collins tells you about how that the post-conflict in Rwanda and the reconciliation is one that is largely based on truth and is one that is largely based on towards achieving a collective goal. We don't think that that is actually true because we all know that the concept of the Rwandan genocide and the post-conflict and even the resolution is based on falsehood. I am going to justify why that in itself is true. When Paul Kagame stepped into power, what he did was to deny agency to the majority because he knows that the constitution of majority more often constitutes nuisance. He said categorically, there are no Hutus, there are no Tutsis, it's just Rwandan. So you often have to relate with everyone as a Rwandan. He became a naturalist, meaning that you don't need to look at people and tell of benefit on the basis of where they come from, because he knows that one particular tribe is majority and one is minority. The denial of the majority, that narrative of truth that, we are majority, is one that created some element of stability in Rwanda that they celebrate today. It means that if you go to Rwanda and ask, are you a Hutu or are you a Tutsi, you're more likely going to be held morally culpable by the state because you want to infuse things like ethnic tension that comes as a result of people recognizing that they're minorities or they're majority. We think the denial of truth within that context to say you are all equal more often creates social harmony. Rwanda currently is massively progressing and the most progressive economy in Africa as a result of this delusion that, you are all equal. We think that means that the ability for us to attain social harmony more often is about how we tell the truth, that even if it might not be true and false, even if it might not be true in all instances and false, but it is based on creating massive social harmony, we are happy to achieve that word. Ajake told you something very important here, and we didn't get any response from opening government. The reason why government of state massively classify information and deny people access to those truths is because of social harmony. It's because of social cohesion. It's because of ability for them to create integration, right? During the Biafran War, the Nigerian Civil War, immediately after the war, the president said, or the commander-in-chief said, there are no victors, there are no vanquished. Why is that important within the context? The denial of truth that, the Nigerian troop actually won the war, we always form the Biafrans, we always form the Igbo-related population to always agitate more and more. In order for him to instill some element of peace, he had to deny access to things like truth just to create social harmony and order. Right. But we can say, that in itself is massively arbitrary, right? Because, people actually know what is truth and all that. We think that when it is sustainable, it is largely beneficial at the end of the day. They haven't showed us how, when you know that someone who you have been calling your mommy or your daddy for time immemorial happens not to be your mommy or your daddy again, that there is a likelihood for you to remain in social harmony or remain in peace with that person. It means that at a particular point in time that the ability of that truth is likely going to become unrealistic and more often going to create some element of uncomfortability for people. There is a tendency for us to mitigate that. That is to say, falsehood in this instance is then principally justified if the end outcome is going to ensure things like peace, harmony, and longevity of coexistence. We are happy to defend such a war. Right? Then let's look at things like agency, because that has been the biggest case of opening government. Their case on agency is largely flawed. Agency cannot exist or cannot hold water in the absence of unity. And for you to achieve unity within the context of human society, you must have some element of tolerance, acceptance, and your ability to socially exist in harmony. We think that agency is eroded when there is a presence of conflict. What begets conflict? Conflict is beget when truth is revealed in a way that it becomes uncomfortable and unrealistic for people to bear. That is why you see things like raising of militia group, raising armed groups, and often creating things rebel groups to more often stand and agitate, because we've revealed a truth that have the capacity to secede a nation or create ethnic tensions and ethnic cleansing. We don't think in our world that it, like, principally the absence of peace in itself is like going to like be so perfect. We don't argue that. We say in a very marginal way, it ensures some element of peace, some element of acceptance. But let's look at their perception in terms of agency. When you tell someone the truth and the person largely doesn't like the truth because you've hidden that truth from that person, the person can never trust you again. Even when you're telling the person the actual truth, the person can never agree with you again because your ability to tell and reveal the truth has ultimately created a sky. We say when the person doesn't even know the truth and continuously believe in you and live in harmony, even if when you are lying to the person will always believe you, it means the element of existing in harmony then transcend beyond just your own feeling of, oh, let me tell the truth. It's ability for you to ultimately accept people and be able to tolerate people. The absence of that in itself is very problematic for societal progression. I'm going to accept POICG.
OG?
Go ahead.
Yeah, the preservance of social harmony is not accessible to everyone, and that would have occurred anyway because there are external incentive for people to want society to progress. The most important impact in the debate is individuals and their ability for them to be able to access feedback that helps them improve in their life or understand that they are truly loved and feel validated.
All right. And that ultimately leads us to the argument we heard from Ajake, right? And one substantive I'm going to bring in this debate, which is why social harmony in itself and in all its entirety transcend any sort of moral benefits that Goff needs to argue or argues in this debate. Why is that true? 3 structural reasons for that. 1, your ability to be very productive within a system or within any society is dependent on how socially cohesive and socially harmonized that particular society in and of itself is. The reason why that in itself can become a sky in the world of government is the likelihood of people to perceive truth, because individual differences exist, and this is something OG doesn't recognize. The ability for me to perceive truth and be able to digest that truth and be able to live with it varies with individual. That level of individual capacity to ultimately accept truth is something that in itself is in contestation. In order for us to mitigate that, there is a likelihood for us to strike a marginal balance. That is to say, to focus on our attention on what likely is going to bound people together on a longeval manner. If telling people the lie is going to unify them, we think it's something that we achieve more on our side of the house. At the end of the day, it is beneficial for us to stand and look at how individuals can coexist peacefully within society without looking at the arbitrary differences that truth has given to them that can instigate things like tensions and war. Very proud.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Here we conclude the upper house of the debate. Going to the lower house, passing the floor to Honorable Member of Government. Here.
Please, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. Would it be fine if I speak without my video or the audio? The video, I mean.
Yeah, if it's completely impossible, then you can go on, I think.
Pardon?
Like, if it's completely impossible, you can go on.
Okay. All right. So, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. For you to pursue something, it means that you don't have it. When people pursue truth, it means that it's been hidden from them, and most times they will pursue it all their lives. From CG exclusively, we don't really, like OG wants to, we say, let whichever that is proportionate, even if it brings these uncomfortable realities, because in those uncomfortable realities, we can rebuild what social harmony or social living particularly means in that sense, right? What is the framing you get from side CG? We don't think social harmony is something which is particularly in existence. We think it's something which is a facade. All that exists is things like these consequences and self-interest which exists within people. What does this mean? This means that that is to say that whatever people would want to pursue, it means that it goes into their own interest in that sense, right? That is why somebody wants to particularly hurt you or harm you to some extent, right? One, because perhaps the societal structures which exist, like jail time and all those things, or they would want to maintain perhaps good relations with you to some extent in that regard, right? The extension you get from side CG is when we tenants, right? That is to say that it's something that has been deconstructed and should be people should pursue what they think. No. Why do we think this is very important, right? In these communities, in a sense of social harmony, right? Therefore,
Chair, she is not
to
clearly audible.
redefine these
It's
things
really hard
means
for
that
me
with
to
this
hear.
pursuit, please, am I audible?
You were getting cut frequently. I stopped the timer once.
Like from 1
where
20 seconds, you were cut actually till like
Yeah.
last 30 seconds. You were cut. Like from the moment you were talking about the extension which CG provided, we could not hear almost anything which you said up until that moment. Like from that moment.
So should I restart?
I think you can restart.
Okay.
Like from that point itself if you want, or you can
Please, can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you now.
All right. So please, the timer, I think it's still on. If it could be restarted for me.
Yeah, sure, you can start.
I mean the timer on the screen.
She's asking to restart her speech actually.
Okay. Yeah, you can start.
All right.
It'll be better if you can do like an audibility check, considering like this is also the finals, right? So if you can just
Pardon?
put the motion once, please.
Okay. So this house believes that the pursuit of truth, even if it leads to uncomfortable is morally preferable to maintaining social harmony.
You were not audible.
Please, did you
throughout.
get that?
No, you were not audible
I
throughout.
got since the beginning, but like in the middle, you just
In the
went
middle,
into
yeah,
the-
in the middle you got cut again.
What's the percentage?
Take some time, like change your location maybe and fix your internet, and then you can proceed. Like you have 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I guess, based on policy.
trying
Please
to-
continue.
Please, I'm using my partner's only.
Sure.
Please, am I audible here?
Yeah, you are audible now.
I need the opening statement. Okay. So starting again.
Ika, just before you
three-
begin, you are echoing actually. So it's better like the other
Please, why you
device.
saying
if you are-
something?
Yeah, you're echoing actually, and it's preferable if you keep the other device like in a bit of muted state because you're echoing.
Oh, okay. Please, can you hear me now? Like, is it better now?
Yeah, it's
Perfectly
better.
clear.
You can start.
All right. So starting again in 3, 2, 1. For you to pursue something, it means you don't have it. When people pursue truth, it means it's been hidden from them. And most times they will pursue it all their lives. From CG, we don't really put focus on whether we can arrive at the destination called truth, like OG wants to. We say, let people pursue with however radical means they deem proportionate, even if it brings uncomfortable reality, because in those uncomfortable realities, we can rebuild what social living means, right? Understanding this is very important, right? Which leads to my point. We think from side CG that social harmony is that which is not particularly true or that which is a facade. All that exists is because of things like the consequences and the self-interest people have. What does this mean? This means that people are inherently not good people. That is why OG preaches to you about things like, oh, the social harmony which even exists, things like narratives and all those kinds of things, right? Will extend why that is particularly true and why it's very important from side CG. We think that the reason why people would want to pursue their self-interest is because if somebody wants to even hurt you, it's because of two things. One, because they're either scared of jail time, or two, they want to maintain good relations with that person in that regard. Yeah, that is to say that from our side of the world, seeking truth means that you'd have to deny that truth in the first place. This is the justification to it, even if it's uncomfortable or brings about those realities. We think that to weigh truth, we need to have a more moral value than a construct we humans or people themselves have created in that sense, right? That is the extension on OG's case on how the narrative exists. Let's extend it now. Social harmony doesn't need perpetual maintenance, right? Since it's something which has been made by people, we think that it should be taken off and people should pursue whenever they seem necessary. Why? Because of the ideas which come from these individuals or communities, etc. Therefore, to redefine this, we need to expose these uncomfortable truths. The pursuit of these things can be looking like things like violent protest, etc. We think would want to take this hard stance and still defend why it is still justified for that. That is to say that the uncomfortable reality which is going to exist when people pursue the truth in this manner is that it brings about the attention from these heads of state or these governors to see that they have been undermined in that sense, to notice that they have the kind of corruption etc. that exists within them has been exposed, right? The reason why we think this is very preferable is because it takes away the power from the big bad guys who wants to benefit or who benefits from these things called social harmony in that effect to that regard, right? That is to say that exposing these realities means that they have to diverge resources responding to the kind of damage that occurs, especially if it's one with a violent thing, which limits the continuation of this social harmony, which goes against people, right? The response of this argumentation to OO, when they say that the reason why they want the social order is because they want it to be progressive, cannot be so because the bad things will continue to exist in a hidden form of lies. This explains why extension on the pursuit is and on the pursuit and our frame is very important to that effect, right? The next reason or the second extension you get from us as to why we think this pursuit is very important is on the kind of discourse it brings about. That is why from the start of our framing, we explain to you why these kinds of pursuits brings about the uncomfortable realities into light. That is to say that it sparks the kind of discourse and discussions that occurs between people to see to it that the objective truth, whether it's found or not, is still gotten. We think that it is still justified for the people to pursue these kinds of things. Again, even if they do not acquire this truth, at a point where they're still able to have these discussions as opposed to the side of where you say that, see, let us just try to maintain this social harmony. Even if it goes against us or it's not beneficial to us, we should just see how we can maintain it and see how that social order can be more or less progressive or attained in that sense. From side CG, we don't think that should be the case, right? We think that because should continue to exist for people to see how these kinds of truth is affecting them, especially at a point where this social harmony is created by some groups of people to suit their kind of pursuit that they want or their own interest to a very large extent in that sense. From side CG, right? We think that the extension or the analysis should be on the long-term effect and on its sustainability, right? Or the way up, right? Outside the world is more sustainable because in the sense that people to pursue the kinds of things which affect them in the sense of truth in that sense, right? People are able to be objective to whatever happens within these kinds of societies to a very large effect, right? That is to say that when people pursue these kinds of truth, they're able to have the discourse to a very large extent. And as our frame makes you understand, we see that people we are able to understand what happens, even if it makes some set of people uncomfortable. We think that this is very justified and very morally acceptable to a very large extent. So POI.
All right. So
Do you
The
think,
meant
POI.
to
do you
read.
think is Prince play are morally justified to pursue truth that can lead to individuals taking their own lives when the alternative of the absence of such truth can save their lives? Why is it justified for you to kill them?
Yeah, that is the whole point of the case. We think that even if these uncomfortable realities are going to be popping up, so insofar as this social harmony you preach is one where which is even forms of it is one where it brings it has hidden lies etc within it. We think that even if people are going to be dying from these things, at a point where they're able to still have these discussions, at a point where they're still able to see whatever is happening over there, we think it's still better for them. As opposed to your world where people will continue to remain in the dark in the hope of maintaining these kinds of social harmony to justify the reason why this uncomfortable reality should be hidden to a very large extent. Panel, from side CG, we exclusively analyzed to you as to why this social harmony is not even true or very important to any extent. Again, we also show how this pursuit, even if it leads to these uncomfortable realities, goes to benefit the people who pursue them, because all this social harmony does is just because of these personal interests people have to some very large extent, right? Vote CG because we do a very extensive job and analyze why we think it's very justified. Here.
Here for the fine speech, Honorable Member of Government. Passing the floor to Honorable Leader, Member of Opposition from closing opposition side. Here.
Yes, please. Am I audible?
Yes,
Can
you
hear
are
me?
audible. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, big shout outs to Nana Griffith and Kodja and all the UFS guys. I really appreciate your support. Okay, so I'll be starting my arguments in 3, 2, 1. So there is something that you need to understand within the debates, and is that social harmony is just having peace. If Israel says that there is social harmony in Gaza, everybody knows that it's a lie, because social harmony is determined by peaceful coexistence, and no power structure can tell you that you are living in harmony when you are not. But for the times where the state is lying about the state of affairs of people, most people come to the street to protest. So you have an example like the NSAS, Yellow Umbrella, and other protests that happens, right? Because of social media and the increase in citizen journalism, a lot of people are able to participate in definitions by sharing their experiences online and so forth, right? But most understandably, Oji argues that truth will give you harmony, but like it's not comparative, because they never explain how that harmony would be achieved when you find the uncomfortable truth. Because in most instances, people literally react to truth in different ways. When you find out that this man killed your mother, you're almost likely going to kill the person in retaliation. They don't show us how they achieve that harmony in itself. But most importantly, they say that there's going to exist a level of argument, because for you to literally know the truth, it is not sufficient. You need the truth must have an impact, and that's the get from OG is that, reconciliation, apologize for the molestation that they talk about. They happen. Bad government will contest again with stolen money and still win the elections at the end of the day. So even if you know the truth, reconciliation is literally doesn't happen because of the power structures that exist within society. Why are we winning the debate? Because exclusively from closing opposition, we are going to prove only one case, and it's simple, is that truth is a product, and he who sells the product the most is the one that wins at the end of the day, and we think that in itself is something that is literally problematic. Why is this true? Because one, OG argues that truth is objective and encourages agency. Why is that false? Because why is truth, like truth is in itself, it's a form of group thinking and individual and not individualistic in nature. What then that means is that for truth to be verified, this means that many people must also engage what it is and confirm that this truth is like legitimate in itself, right? So people in itself will not be harmed at the end of the day. But most importantly, there are other metrics to justify why certain things are true. So things like government, things like the United Nations, scientific method, and all these things is used to measure what truth is in that regard. So in most instances, people say that, they are only male and female. it's a truth propagated by many people because they use science, the use of science to justify, and the use of culture to justify the sexes of people, right? But most importantly, just like the beauty industry, right? Truth propagated by beauty industry will tell you that, during your adolescent studies, human anatomy, a man is supposed to have things like a deeper voice. A woman is supposed to have like breast and all these kind of things. They teach these instances within school. But most importantly, democracy is a form of governance as truth, because it is a form of truth promoted by the West through conquest and soft power and propagates like propaganda against authoritarian regimes, right? Why is this important and like all these scenarios really relevant within the debate? Because in all these instances, the truth was used as a tool to cause division and isolate people. Because when people saw themselves as right, it imposed on other people's legitimacy, and they fit and saw these people as people who are literally wrong. They used this truth to justify racism, colonization, and all these things that happen, that certain people are superior than other people. Why is that problematic and hurt minority groups? We think that in most instances, the whites has always painted an idea that this is the truth. So what then that means is that there is no coping mechanism or any structure for minorities to also sell out their truth, because I've proven why in principle, truth in itself is a product. In that regard, things like LGBTQ people cannot contest the truth that, they only exist two sexes like male and female. We think that for harmony to exist, like peaceful coexistence, you need to also trade off, because simply in moral principle, knowing the truth is not enough. It should have a pragmatic effect. And the only pragmatic effect that you get from opening government is that there is going to exist a form of reconciliation. We think that in itself is really bad. But the second impact is that the pursuit of social justice was premised on social harmony. The fact that whether you have proof that you are wiser or stronger than me, let me also work hard and let me also vote. And that is the reason why Black people were given the chance to vote within the United States, and many people, democratic participation was increased all over the world, because the mere essence that you are stronger, and that is the truth, the mere essence that you are wiser doesn't necessarily give you the upper hand over minorities. We think that in itself has created a more democratic inclusion, and that is why we are enjoying in today's world. But this also looks like I have like this also looks like I have a penis. Doesn't mean that I should stick to the truth of being like a size male because it's science, right? Because I can have social harmony by thinking that I'm female and we should all coexist. And that has literally brought the world to a more peaceful world. We think that that in itself is something that we prefer from the side of all. But the third impact is very simple. A world where there is no truth is a world where people look beyond science and culture and become human and accommodate, because they don't care what the truth is. They care about social coexistence. The impact of this argument is really simple, right? That's the reason why people give aid and other things to other countries, because United States of America will not necessarily care if Russia, it is true that certain parts of Ukraine belongs to Russia. They don't care about the historical truth. All we care about is the individual rights and people suffering within this region. We want to do it. And that's the reason why sending aid and ammunition, things like giving aid within the Gaza Strip and all these things have been legitimized in principle, because we don't necessarily care about what the truth of the war is. We just care about human coexistence, and that's something that we win. But why do we beat OO? Because OO argues that people won't find the truth. Your extension is to characterize how decisive truth and uncomfortable truth is. Why? Because they don't prove that to a certain extent. What we are going to do is that we are going to we prove to you why this in itself has been used as a tool to literally manipulate people and oppress the minority. We think that in itself is what we literally win on, right? Panel, there's a principle in today's debate that we've proven, and it's simple, that truth is a product, and whoever sells the product the most is the one that wins at the end of the day. I've given you impact, why this is very harmful, 3 levels of impact, and we are better winning from closing opposition. Here.
Here, Honorable Member of Opposition. Thanks for the fine speech. Passing the floor to Honorable Government Whip for wrapping up the case from Government Bench. Here. Government Whip.
Please, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
It's just a second. No, yeah, on it. Yeah. Mm. Okay. Please, am I still audible?
Yes, you are audible. You can start whenever you are ready.
Okay. So, unfortunately, I'd have to use my partner's phone. Okay. I start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The existence of peace does not necessarily mean the existence of justice. The biggest moral action is not the endurance of peace or the assurance of peace, but its enactment of justice. In Ops world, they ensure superficial peace at the expense of people's happiness. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Please, when did you stop my timer?
No, I just started it 5 seconds later.
Please, I want to restart.
Yeah, you can start when.
I start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The existence of peace does not necessarily mean the existence of justice. The biggest moral action is not the endurance or the assurance of peace, but its enactment of justice as it brings a level of happiness for people. In opposition's world, they ensure superficial peace at the expense of people's happiness and justice by enslaving them and etc. The reason why we opt for pursuit of should be morally preferable is because for most humans, their highest form of morality means something that allows them to live a sane and dignified life. Things like moral conscience, things like ethical principles, and things like agreements with their own principles that makes them satisfied. The answer to CO's POI that Carol dash justice to, the addition to that particular response, is the idea that we think death is still better in our world than their terrible lives even when they live. This is why things like abortion is justified when there's like a high probability that the child is going to be disabled because the child is never going to be happy and is going to have a terrible life throughout, right? What it means then is that in their world, people still live. And then there's even if in their world there's reduced conflict as they claim, people still live. And then there's a life of oppression, like people are not happy and then there's more oppression in their world. The second thing is that people have low conscience, right? I've shown you the importance of this particular conscience to people because they want to live a sane and dignified life. Conscience is very important for people to maintain their sanity in these particular things. What it means then is that people don't just live a terrible life like because of the oppression that exists, but because of the fact that they cannot even live with a clear conscience, right? So in their world, and the truth of the matter is that in their world, there's a world where people still die because at the end of the day, they behave like the people will just be told lies and then will listen dumbly till the end of eternity, right? We think that there's a world that exists where people will get to know the truth and people will still react. But even if they don't concede to that fact, and then there's like a superficial harmony that they talk about, we think that in their world, there's terrible conscience or satisfaction, and even worse, accountability, one to the people themselves, which is very important, right? We think that people have been indoctrinated to be fine with lies. So in Ops world, they support things like indoctrination and oppression. It is why in countries that don't support feminism or support patriarchy, you see that these particular women don't want to do anything about those particular things, and then they conform to those particular terrible lies that they've been subjected to, right? What does Carol tell you? She tells you about the fact that such social harmony doesn't need perpetual maintenance, right? Because of the idea that it's a human construct and it needs to be constantly torn and rebuilt, even if it's going to bring uncomfortable realities. Why do we prefer this particular thing? Because we think that the catalyst for redefining it is exposing the uncomfortable situations other than painting a world where it looks like everything is in shape, right? We think that the first reason why we prefer all those things that Carol tells you is the fact that it takes power away from the bad guys that were benefiting from the biased harmony, because she shows you how those particular people or people that are in power, those particular people that benefit from the biased harmony, right? What it means then is that in our world, aside accountability to self, people even get better accountability, because even if they are not able to get truth, like they're not able to reach the idea of getting truth, they're able to push a certain level of action from these particular people, right? What it means then is that in our world, they're even able to get them to divert their resources to respond to damage. The second and the most important thing is the moral satisfaction of conscience. I've shown you how that particular thing is very important because all the top guys really don't care about personal principles. They really don't care about moral conscience, and they do things that give them their own interest, things that they benefit from that particular biased harmony, right? We think that in our world, it gives the truth seeker practices from knowing they didn't shut up to condone some oppressive system. What it means is that other than in their world, where people live terrible lives with bad conscience, we think that in our world, even in a world where people die and then they are not able to reach those particular truths, or they are not able to get the things that they want, right? We think the pursuit of that particular truth alone gives them a high level of moral satisfaction, which even makes them happy. What it means then is that if one person has that particular moral satisfaction, another person has that particular moral satisfaction, that happiness alone can bring that unity that they are so much interested in, because that particular happiness is going to be inherently connect all of them, right? We think the impact of this is that you get long-term social cohesion because there is satisfaction, and that satisfaction is infectious, right? It means that a lot of people are now satisfied with themselves as human beings, and we think that in itself brings a high level of unity as compared to all the other things that they tell you, which we think creates a superficial harmony or supports that biased form of harmony, right? We think the reason why everything is morally preferable, right? Everything Carol tells you is morally preferable. It's because one, it is morally justified for individuals to do what makes them happy. What it means then is that the pursuit of truth, so long as it goes with their principles and ethics and everything, we think it's justified for them to go after those particular things that make them happy. If not want to bring a one-leg child into the world for her to suffer, it's because her conscience is going to eat her up. So long as it makes her happy that she's not going to let someone suffer, we think that it's justified. We think the second thing is very important, is because they hold themselves accountable before society. What it means then is that if they are at peace, it's very important than particularly someone dying because they broke out into conflict or something like that, right? We think in Ops world, accountability lies solely on society, a society whose harmony is biased or superficial because of all the lies that they create that we've already shown you, right? We think this becomes bad, especially during conflicting ideas like things like indoctrination, etc., right? On weighing, we think in our world there are long-term benefits against short-term benefits, right? Why? Because in their world there exist things like the temporal benefits of lies, right? So they claim that they're able to avoid conflicts. We think even if they're able to avoid conflicts, it's for a very short period, as we've shown you. We think that in our world people are able to have a clear mindset, and then there is that happiness that exists, right? We've shown you how that happiness goes a long way to help those particular people, because even if in their world they get some level of happiness from lying, that particular happiness is short-term, because at the end of the day that particular happiness, those particular of lies are going to be discovered, right? We think that in our world, the advantages that come with these particular things are things like future or avoidance of conflict, right? Even if there's conflict, we think that that particular satisfaction of moral conscience that is in our world is preferred as compared to theirs, right? Panel, a couple of things that OO tells you. The first thing OO tells you is that they think in their world there is unity. I've already shown you how in their world, even if there is unity, those particular people are not even happy because their unity is superficial, like that unity really does not exist, but they're only made to believe that unity exists, right? We think that we think that they're made to believe that those unity exists, right? We think secondly, there's immediate disruption of lies, right? Because people eventually find out the truth and become reactive and react defensively or aggressively upon learning the truth, right? We think that even results in conflict. We think it's better for individuals to pursue the truth, even if it is violent, because one, they're able to feel satisfied and accountable to themselves. Secondly, at a point, they're even able to push action, right? We think that in our world, they say, people find it difficult to accept truth. We think the issue was not whether people will accept the truth or not, but the moral preferability of the pursuit of truth, as I've shown you, right? We win from CG because we've shown you extensively how we beat over our opening, because we engage the cases of both opening of both up benches and show you the impact on the weighing on sustainability and accountability. Proudly, CG.
Thank you, Honorable Government Whip. Now passing the floor to the closing speech of the debate to Opposition Whip. Here.
Can I be heard?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so thank you everyone for supporting us, members of the UFS, Union Forensic Society. I mean, you guys are family, right? Also, shout out to Kwesi Broni, but he has been the swing who has been like necessarily harming people within this tournament. He deserves a shout out. Okay, so I'll be beginning in my next word. what you get from Jeffrey is that he tells you that the frame that comes from opening government is something that should necessarily be rejected within today's debate. Because notice how opening government's case is one that thrives upon the objectivity of truth in that particular regard. To the extent where Jeffrey is able to prove to you that truth in and of itself is something that is necessarily subjective, that particular framework falls within the context of the debate. But then notice that Jeffrey is able to prove to you how that particular subjectiveness of truth is something that has been used to propose inequalities within societies and have been used to justify certain wrongdoings that existed within society. We think that the extent where we need to trade off this particular truth in order to benefit social harmony in society, we want that particular world, right? Panel, notice that there are a couple of things that you get from opening government which necessarily do not run into this debate. We are going to prove to you why. Because note that the first thing that they tell you is that they screw out the debate by framing a world where there is no harmony and argue that the truth necessarily gives harmony, right? Note that our comparative is a world of social harmony, not a world of doubt or lack of happiness. Because their first case about how in relationships in that particular world doesn't necessarily make sense. Because if you're uncertain about the relationship that you necessarily show, if you doubt that someone loves you, if you're in a relationship and feeling anxious and insecure, it means the partner is doing something that is necessarily inducing this particular feeling within you. This is not harmony. And we think that the person should leave whether or not this particular thing is true or not, that they love you. We think that this particular truth should not be the determining factor in this particular instance. But then note that the second argument is that there is correction and reconciliation panel. This is not really analyzed, why they don't explain whether the oppressor is willing to engage in reconciliation and whether even if they do it, it will be sufficient using their own particular case, right? Panel, note that if you find out your boyfriend is cheating, that is the truth, but then they might leave you or dump you or not apologize or even go on to cheat, even if you blame them for their cheating. Notice how the Catholic Church hasn't necessarily apologized for the molestation that has existed through time immemorial. Autocratic regimes didn't apologize. Bad governments contest again with stolen money and win again. We think that particular correction and reconciliation that is exist on the part of opening government. But then they say that, oh, correction, right? This is what correction looks like. Saying that the minority is wrong, putting them in prisons like they do to social justice icons, reversal camps, because it's not science and public shaming people that goes against the truth, right? We think that it looks like the Roman Crusades because their religion was truthful and had to defeat other religions and spread this particular truth. That is what correction does on the other side of the house. That particular correction is bad and is violent. You oppose that particular correction. But then again, they say that, oh, truth is most likely going to make people happy. We think that is false on so many metrics, right? Hey, we think that if people will like this truth, then that is not where the debate necessarily happens, because it is uncomfortable reality that you're necessarily dealing here. Telling with someone that they're not telling someone they are not the reason why they are poor, and that this is because of the lottery of birth is not something that people are necessarily uncomfortable with in that particular regard. You think that truth, like how much you are hated by your parents just because you don't have a job, is something that is necessarily bad because it implicates all the arguments of happiness that you get on the side of governance, right? They're going to prove to you why individual happiness doesn't necessarily exist, like Jeffrey tells you. But then also note on the conversation of trust. Notice that trust is built off the back of show of competence, right? What the government says that, oh, we told these people that we have messed up the economy so bad that the government, like the banking sector, is failing. They say that just because these people, the government told these people the truth, they are going to trust the government and say that even though you caused this particular problem, we will still trust you just because you told us the truth. No, we think that's false. Why? Because people come into bank to withdraw their money because they lose the trust that exists within that particular government. They want to self-preserve. The impact of this is like numerous, right? You further mess up these economies because people don't trust these governments because the government decided to tell them that the economy is fact. That is the truth that opening government says people should pursue on their side of the house. This argument is necessarily important because it directly affects all these third world countries massively. In all this world, this is the only way they say that, oh, this is morally preferable. We say that to the extent where this particular truth facts over developing countries 10 times over, it is not morally preferable, ensuring that like this particular thing is maintained to help these people in the longer run in that particular regard. But then again, they say that, notice how the whole side government's argumentations to win today's debate, they need to prove a world where individuals are necessarily going to react rationally. That is why Jeffrey tells you that this is something that necessarily doesn't happen due to a couple of reasons, because humans are susceptible to act irrationally when put in an uncomfortable situation due to how things like emotions affect people's actions. Things like anger, rash actions, adrenaline won't make you think and act well. But then also, people are more risk averse, so not necessarily act irrationally in order to self-preserve. Right? The relevance of this motion is implicit in today's debate, because note, for all of OG and CG's impact to accrue, you need people to act in the most rational way possible. Things like trust, and like maximization of agency and autonomy, ECT, yes, some people will act wisely, but then the majority of people won't, which means that you actively limit the agency and autonomy by taking away humans' ability to think and act freely. You don't get that on government, you get it from clothing opposition exclusively. But in the conversation of happiness, right, we think that things like dissociative identity or disorders necessarily exist because human brains cannot cope with harsh realities over and over again. Our brains are not designed to constantly be bombarded with harsh realities. On the other side of the house, individuals are always unhappy because they find out like they necessarily find out harsh realities and uncomfortable truth. Things like your wife and your children hate you because you lost your job, etc. Right? We think that the impact is like huge because there is more emotional instability on the other side of the house. People notice how societal stability requires people to be mentally stable in order to increase this particular societal harmony, right? Things like happiness, productivity are all things that are premised on the fact that individuals are necessarily like rational. Let's take OG.
CGO becomes the third government bench in this debate because their case is that truth is objective, which is the pursuance of truth. That is saying that gender is a social construct, which is what people are able to access on outside.
That is the problem with opening government, because their whole argumentation is that truth is something that is necessarily objective. We tell you how truth being subjective is something that individuals have necessarily used to push forth like human rights, injustices, and so forth. We think that in as much as people can view their truth however they want to, when there needs to be a compromise within society in order to ensure social harmony, OG doesn't get like this particular analysis, right? But the point we tell you that on the other side of the house, human beings are always being bombarded with harsh realities that compromises their emotional stability. People are unhappy, you lose productivity, etc. See this like the West even today, because panel notice how they say that bad things will always exist, so we should live, we should like pursue truth in order to worsen it. Like in a situation where these bad truths are truths that necessarily compromise people's rationality and people's ability to be emotionally stable. We think that is bad. But then they also say that social harmony is something that exists on a personal interest level. Like we don't really think that argument wins today's debate. At the point we are able to prove to you that this particular projection of truth is something that worsens human agency, we have proven to you that it worsens people's emotional health, emotional well-being on the other side of the house. We have proven to you that this particular trade-off matters. This we win the debate from side closing opposition. Here.
Here. Thank you for the fine speech, Honorable Opposition Whip. Here we conclude the entire debate. Thank you everyone for the nice debate. Allow us with the deliberation time, and see you guys in the closing ceremony.
Thank you guys for the really nice debate. Best of luck for the closing ceremony.
Thank you everyone. Good luck.
Chair, you are muted.
Oh, sorry, I was talking like panels can join me in the Discord for the deliberation.
Yeah, so judges, please follow your chair. If you're not a judge, I beg you, please don't join the deliberation room. Like, we really do not want to see you there. And judges would appreciate if you're able to like wrap up your deliberation in exactly 40 minutes so we can actually go ahead with the award ceremony. So we are trusting you, the chair, please. Thank you so much.
Sure, we will. Thank you.
I think it's on Discord. Just follow the Discord channels and you'll see where your panel, your judges are.